Okay, so now we're gonna start building Larry. As you can see here, I have the layout in front of me. This is where it goes on the layout. This is how the build goes. So we're going to take just that little folder that we made and we're going to put all the parts in front of us. Okay, so these are the boots. So that's actually the first thing we're gonna do. You can do as little or as much dimension you want on these. I personally like a lot of dimension for my things. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna be using my puffy tape. I like to get it on, you can get the regular dots or whatever. And I'm just gonna cut 2 little pieces off. And I'm going to stick those on the heels of Larry's shoes. Okay, I'm just gonna peel those off, put them aside. I like to put everything together individually and then put everything together so that we make sure we get everything, okay? So I'm going to, oops. These are just the heels. It's just to give a little added whimsy to Larry here. So there's his little shoes. I have a little piece that I need to trim up, just a very small piece. So you can already see these are his shoes that go right there. So with Larry, he has arms that go behind him. We're gonna put his little boots up on top. So these are his arms, and beyond his arms are going to be the little gloves. Okay, the gloves are going to go like this. So this curved piece, those go into his body. So these are right and left. And there's no wrong way to do this. If you prefer to do it a different way, then go right ahead. This is your kit. Okay, so these are his arms. This is his body. Whenever I do anything that has, like say the arms are set back where they would visually and in real life would be set back, I like to have a little dimension on my page. And a little bit of pop dots is not going to make it really, really thick. Okay, so behind the little arms, which is this piece right here, I put some pop dot just right in the middle. Don't go too close to the edge. You have plenty of room on this because there's just a little bit of the sleeve that's poking through. So then take your darker red color and place it on top. And like I said, you can see that there's a little bit of dimension, but not very much. So the next piece that goes on for this, for Larry, is our little squiggle stripe. And again, it just gives you a little bit of detail. So I'm kind of running low here on my glue. So you just, the tools I like to use are a very thin, like this kind of glue. I'm still hunting out the best glue possible. But I find Tombow works really well for me. Okay, so it kind of goes roughly like, I don't know, somewhere between 1/4 of an inch, so roughly. You have a little bit of space at the bottom. You don't want it all the way to the bottom. Okay, and so the next thing we're gonna do is put on our shoes. Okay, so your shoes, I like to dry fit things in, so this is roughly where the shoes are gonna go. So again, I'm gonna use my pop dots. And because a shoe would stick out from the body. It's kind of like the contouring thing with makeup. You know, you want the thing that's gonna be farthest away with a pop dot on it, is how I like to think. And you also don't want to cover up where the hands are going to go, the gloves are going to go, because then you won't see them. Okay, so there's your 2 shoes. I'm going to move this aside. I'm going to get all of the extra stuff out of the way. Okay, so this is where we're at right now. Okay, we have his body, we have the stripe. You can see right here on the stripe that there's a little bit of an overhang. You just have to trim that off, and then it's nice and flush. And his shoes are on there. Okay, so for his little mittens, which you can see right here, they go in this area. But what I'm gonna do is put a little tiny bit of glue right here, and put the cuff of the glove on there. So very small amount. Because these are smaller and I don't wanna get my big hands in the way, I'm gonna use my X-Acto. And so you just put it on here. Just make sure it's underneath the little body. Whoop, I put him on top. There we go. Okay, so his hands just poke out from underneath. Super cute, super easy. All of our gnomes are pretty much the same when we set them up. That they have distinct parts that make them different. This one obviously has a different kind of mustache, and this ladybug has little antenna. So for Larry here, he's got a beard. I'm gonna put him in this direction. I'm gonna put a little bit of pop dot underneath it. Again, to give it a little bit of dimension. Okay. All of this gets covered, you can see in the layout, excuse me, that as long as the beard goes, you don't want to go too high because that's what the cuteness of the gnome is. But as you can see, I did not cut this little tab off. You don't have to. You can if you're that kind of designer. Okay, for the mustache, it sits right on top of it. You kind of get an idea. Again, I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive on the back of it. You don't have to use an X-Acto. You have a pokey thing or a needle to pick those up, or tweezers, however you like to craft. Use what you're comfortable with. These are just things that I'm comfortable using. I'm an X-Acto girl. Okay, so for your mustache, same thing. You know, it's just kind of a cute, funny, you know, give them a little bit more personality kind of thing. Okay, now that we have that done, okay, before we get any farther, I'm gonna put on my antenna, which go roughly in this area with these two antenna. You're not gonna be going to the end of the antenna, you're just gonna be doing the bottom, roughly about a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to take this, I cut mine funky, so I'm just gonna trim it up just slightly. Sometimes that happens, it's okay. So I'm just gonna give it a little trim so you can't tell that I messed up. Okay, so just trim that up. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to go dot, 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 dot. They don't need a ton to keep them on. And this is probably not politically correct in this day and age, but in order to pick these small pieces up, I lick my finger so it's just slightly sticky, and then put it on there. Okay, so now we have the antenna on there. We have his body done. Now, we're going to figure out how this goes. Okay, so on his little shoulders here, you can see this hat dips down just slightly. So roughly on his shoulders, we're just going to put a little bit of glue here and a little bit of glue there. Just like this, and I just realized he kind of looks like Santa. Except for his antenna. Okay, and then just stick that in that general area. It doesn't, again, these are not gonna be used as a football. Okay, so glue those down. And then the last thing we're gonna do is put on his nose, which always pulls everything together. So I always call these potatoes because they always look like potatoes to me. So I'm gonna put a little bit more. You could tell on our picture that we used a little bit of a pop dot. So I'm gonna move that out of the way, that out of the way. And on our little potato nose, I'm going to put this nose on. And there we have Larry. Larry is complete.